You're talking about therapy. It's, it is therapeutic to be other people, to pretend to be other people, and to live out scenarios in a different storyline through someone else.
Among the many actors Damian Lewis has worked with or studied, none seems to have left a deeper impression than Mark Rylance.
How did we do in there?
Not too good. Apparently you're not an American citizen.
That's true.
And according to your boss, you're not a Soviet citizen either.
Well, the boss isn't always right, but he's always the boss.
Do you never worry?
Would it help?
It's so fun to be in, to be playing with Mark as Thomas Cromwell, Mark Rylance. It is a joy. I think we were all really looking forward to getting back to it.
To Lewis, Rylance represents the ideal collaborator, an actor committed not just to craft, but to discovery. Their time together on Wolf Hall was, in Lewis's words, like playing a great game of tennis. You hit something with a bit of slice and it comes back with topspin. The admiration is rooted not just in performance, but in Rylance's sense of mischief and presence. He's got this wonderful twinkle in his eye, Lewis once said in a BBC interview. He's serious without being self-serious. There's a joy in him. For Lewis, it wasn't just about learning lines or delivering them with nuance. It was about presence, responsiveness, and an almost musical rhythm in the scene. He described each encounter with Rylance as a joy and a discovery, noting how Rylance would come in with meticulous preparation, but still manage to remain spontaneous. It was alive every time, he said. That's what you want in a scene partner, that sense that you're both finding it anew. Working so closely with Rylance set a new standard for Lewis, not just in terms of performance, but in the atmosphere he sought in future projects. Because Rylance modelled such a high standard of preparation and generosity, Lewis began to recalibrate his own approach to acting, looking more for ensemble balance than star-driven dominance. In a shift from the rehearsal-heavy stage world, Lewis has also found creative inspiration in the cinematic economy of Clint Eastwood.
Right? You know Baby Kavanaugh?
While Eastwood is best known for his directing in later years, for Lewis, it's the actor-director's earlier performances that left a mark. There's something mythic about Eastwood, Lewis told The Times. He knows how to do nothing, and that's the hardest thing to do on screen. Lewis has pointed to films like Unforgiven, The Outlaw Josie Wales, and Fistful of Dollars as foundational examples of restraint, control, and narrative presence. You watch those films, and he doesn't need 10 lines to get across what someone else might in a monologue. It's all there in the stillness. This admiration is more than nostalgic. Lewis has openly expressed his desire to star in a Western, if only to tap into the atmosphere that Eastwood mastered. There's a purity in those films, he said. They're elemental. You can't hide behind dialogue or editing. You've just got to be. Lewis isn't simply drawn to the genre for the costumes or the setting. He sees it as a kind of actor's crucible, a place where the essentials are laid bare, and the truth of the performance is impossible to obscure. That clarity and economy in Eastwood's performances led Lewis to rethink how he used physical space and silence in his own screen work, especially in roles like Nicholas Brody in Homeland, where tension often had to be sustained without dialogue. If Eastwood taught Lewis how to command space with silence, Michael Caine showed him the power of consistency.
Of tribal leaders by bribing them with precious stones. But their caravans were being raided in a forest north of Rangoon by a bandit.
Though Lewis hasn't spoken as expansively about Caine as he has about Rylance or Eastwood, he has acknowledged him as an actor whose career he deeply respects. When asked in a fan Q&A to name British actors he admires, Lewis named Caine without hesitation, saying, "He's done it all, hasn't he? And done it well."
So you can imagine my delight when I lit upon the great Sir Michael Caine's masterclass in screen acting. And in it, Sir Michael gives this piece of advice. You always only look at the... Wait for it. You always only look at the eye closest to camera. And you never blink.
Caine's endurance, moving from 60s stardom through character roles and award-winning performances, represents for Lewis a template of how to age in the industry without losing artistic relevance. You never got the sense that Caine was reinventing himself, Lewis noted in a 2019 podcast. He just adjusted. There's a difference. That quiet adaptability struck a chord with Lewis, who had his own brush with transatlantic fame after Band of Brothers and Homeland. He has spoken about resisting the temptation to chase every Hollywood role, and instead returning to British theatre and BBC productions, where the material felt richer and less dictated by trends. Caine's pragmatic philosophy, get the job, do the job, don't complain, inspired Lewis not to overthink success, but to look for roles that would challenge him long-term. Because of Caine's ability to move through decades without becoming a caricature of himself, Lewis learned the value of picking projects that don't just showcase range, but preserve integrity. Not every actor cites directors as their artistic influences, but Damian Lewis makes a deliberate exception for Peter Kosminski. Their collaboration on Wolf Hall was not just a career highlight, but, in Lewis's own words, like working with a brother. The trust between them helped shape Lewis's performance as Henry VIII into something far more nuanced than simply angry or tyrannical. He trusted us to find it, Lewis said. There was no micromanaging. He had the vision, but let us colour it in. This kind of partnership, where the actor is respected as a co-author of the role, became something Lewis looked for in subsequent projects. Kosminski's direction encouraged Lewis to focus more on internal dynamics rather than outward behaviour. In preparing for scenes, they would often strip the dialogue to its emotional core, then rebuild from there. We had this phrase, Lewis recalled, "What's underneath that?" and we'd keep asking until we found it. That methodical, emotionally honest approach shaped how Lewis approached later roles, particularly those where duplicity and surface charm masked deeper psychological tension, something seen clearly in Billions and A Spy Among Friends. Kosminski's influence made Lewis more selective, not in terms of fame or billing, but in terms of process and mutual respect. He said he'd rather work for 6 months on something obscure with a director like that than take a prestige gig where the creative dialogue is one-sided. So far, Lewis's favourites reveal a clear pattern. He admires actors and directors who strip away artifice, who value discovery, and who trust the work to do the talking. Whether it's Rylance's live-wire intelligence, Eastwood's taciturn control, or Caine's enduring pragmatism, Lewis's artistic compass points to simplicity anchored in depth. Who do you think deserves to be named as Damian Lewis's greatest influence? Do you agree with his reverence for minimalism and craft, or would you add others to the list? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to watch until the end for one final surprise. One influence rarely mentioned in public interviews, but often whispered among actors of Lewis's generation, is Paul Scofield.
The indictment is grounded in an act of Parliament which is directly repugnant to the law.
While Lewis hasn't dedicated much press time to Scofield, he referenced him in a Royal Academy event as the actor everyone else was trying to be without looking like they were trying. Scofield's performance in A Man for All Seasons was, by Lewis's account, one of those pivotal moments where he realized how much power could come from stillness. There's a moment when he just looks at someone and you see it all change, Lewis said. No music, no cutaway, just the look. Though he never worked with Scofield, Lewis absorbed that lesson deeply. In roles like Soames Forsyte or Charles Doughty Wiley, he often allowed silence or a flicker of doubt to carry more narrative weight than exposition ever could. Scofield's relative anonymity in the modern cultural conversation, Lewis suggests, is part of his legacy. He wasn't interested in being famous, Lewis told a student audience at Guildhall. He was interested in being true. That ethos of truth above visibility would go on to guide Lewis in turning down big roles when the scripts lacked integrity or nuance, even if they came with prestige or a major platform. Any British actor working in classical theatre is inevitably compared to Laurence Olivier, but Damian Lewis's view of him is more complex.
You must abase yourself before her. You must grovel at her feet.
He was brilliant but also terrifying. Lewis once said in an interview with The Telegraph, he wanted control over everything. While Lewis respects Olivier's innovation, his decision to create the National Theatre, his restless hunger for reinvention, he's been more measured about adopting Olivier's methods. There's a temptation to imitate him, but that's a trap, he said. You end up doing great acting instead of just acting. However, Lewis has praised Olivier's role in The Entertainer as a masterclass in vulnerability. It's all coming apart for him in that film, he observed. You see the man and the mask falling off at the same time. That contradiction between control and exposure is something Lewis has sought to explore in his own performances, particularly in morally ambiguous characters. Because of Olivier's complexity, Lewis came to understand that theatrical greatness isn't about volume or transformation. It's about choosing the moments when to reveal and when to withhold. Perhaps the most significant personal and professional influence in Damian Lewis's life was his late wife, Helen McCrory. In interviews before and after her passing, Lewis spoke about her skill, generosity, and grounded brilliance with reverence.
Well, she was a fabulous human being, yeah, and people from all walks of life have been in touch to say what an impact she had on their lives.
She had this extraordinary ability to make you feel like the only person in the room, Lewis said in his tribute at the National Theatre. Whether she was on stage or just at the school gates, she gave all of herself. Though McCrory's style differed from Rylance's or Eastwood's, she brought a similar level of precision and spontaneity. Lewis often credited her with keeping him honest. She never let me coast, he said. She'd say, yes, fine, but what's really going on underneath? Working alongside her, particularly in theatre circles, shaped Lewis's humility and emotional openness. Her influence is visible in his growing interest in more intimate, character-driven narratives and his renewed presence on stage in recent years. Following her death in 2021, Lewis took time away from acting, and when he returned, his roles carried an even deeper stillness. In interviews, he has said that she's still the voice in his head whenever he prepares a part. Because of Helen McCrory's enduring influence, Lewis now selects projects not for profile, but for their emotional truth and moral complexity, seeking the same honesty she demanded in her work.